Hello, my friends. It's Dave Hilton from the DebtBlackHole, and we're here again this week to talk more about the financial red alert using my financial alert system. Now, we have to talk again about the financial red alert because after completing the video and uploading it from last week, I realized that I didn't talk about what actually happens to your Financial Starship once you actually have a financial red alert activated. I was so worried about making sure that the Romulan warbird and the Klingon ship and the Borg and all that looked so good, or as good as it could be based on my non-existent budget, that I completely forgot. I talked all about what could cause a financial red alert, but I didn't talk about what happens once you actually initiate a financial red alert. So that's what we're going to talk about this week, and I promise next week we'll talk about the financial yellow alert. But back here to the process of the financial red alert, whether it's manually activated by you since you are your Financial Starship captain, or if it's automatically triggered because of an attack or something like that, just keep in mind that the financial red alert is the highest alert level that's possible. And here's what happens when you initiate a financial red alert. First off, in your ship, the lights dim. Now, I compare this to limiting your use of electricity and your water and other resources and things that you actually have to spend money on all the time. Another thing, the audio alarm goes off. You remember it, don't you, the financial red alert signal? Yep, that right there. You should automatically hear that sound in your head, and you should share the fact that you're hearing that with your family, with your crew that's there on the ship with you. Now, another thing that happens during a financial red alert, your shields immediately go up. Now, this is mostly to limit your vulnerability to outside attack and influence, to spend money, to use money. Now, if that means that you have to skip meetings, that you have to skip social events, or you have to skip other special occasions, so be it. And I'm talking, and I'm going to dig down deep, and I know I'm going to be stepping on toes, and people are going to hate me for it, but even certain gifts for birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, holidays, you should really think hard about whether it is important to do so. You know, a social obligation is not good enough. If it's something that has to be. Remember, you can get something small, even a $5 iTunes gift card, or something like a gift certificate to Think Geek, even $20. If you've got that geek in your life, something very, very small. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It could be something small, something you put a lot of thought into, or something you create on your own. I can't tell you how many times, how many years when we had financial problems that my kids or my wife, for anniversaries, birthdays, even Father's Day, they just made me something handmade. And you know what? I actually have those things hanging up in important spots. Not the other gifts, the random stuff they spent money on, but the things that they took the time to actually make for me, handmade stuff. It means more to me than a lot of the stuff you could buy at the store. So really think about whether or not you should spend money on those things like birthdays, weddings, holidays, and if you have to do the holiday thing, because like my wife, she refused to give up Christmas, and I understand that. It's very important to her, but we were able to limit what we did. Instead of, doing several gifts, each person got one cool gift. They got one gift that they could open on Christmas Eve, and they got one gift that they could open on Christmas. And, of course, just little tidbits maybe in the stocking or something. So you can limit what you spend, and that's how your shields immediately go up. You have to limit yourself to outside attack and influence to spend money on everything. Now, another thing that happens during a financial red alert, your ship's weapons are immediately armed. Now, I consider the weapons your discretionary income, your emergency fund as well, if you have one. Whatever money is not spent on the bare necessities. Now, think about what is an actual necessity. Housing, water, electricity, gas, food, insurance, and only necessary transportation costs. Because we've already talked about last time whether or not if you have, like we have here, one of these Galaxy-class starships, whether or not you need to downgrade into something else, a Runabout or Defiant class. So we've already talked about that. But think about what is actually necessary. All of your discretionary income should immediately be set aside to use against whatever bill collectors, credit card debt, car payments, and other debt obligations that you currently have in your life. And when you think about those car payments, why don't you downgrade? Why don't you sell whatever expensive car? I mean, if you're paying $500 a month, why don't you downgrade and just buy a nice used car? I know it's a very difficult decision to make, but sometimes you have to make those decisions because you want to make sure that you have your weapons are fully charged. Because if you're using your resources for something else that really doesn't matter, instead of using it for your weapons to attack whatever debt you have, you're going to be in some serious trouble. Now also, something else that happens at the Financial Red Alert, your crew mans their battle stations. Now it's important that every member of your family or your crew or your household or whatever, they should stop whatever it is that they usually do or like to do even, and focus on the situation at hand. Everything else becomes irrelevant. The normal minutia of day-to-day life doesn't matter anymore. What matters is focusing on eliminating or destroying whatever debt issues or whatever is attacking you. And I know that's very difficult for a lot of people to do, especially when it comes to when you have kids. But you know what? We include our children in our financial decisions. I mean, they know what we're spending. And then whenever we tell them no, they understand why they can't have something. So it's very important that every person on the crew is committed to helping with whatever's going on. Now, another thing that happens, the Financial Red Alert, the holodecks and other non-critical systems are shut down. Now, this is where a lot of people start arguing with me. And I understand it's very, very difficult to make decisions that change the way you live because we get used to the way that we live. But things like your TV satellite service, that's not a necessity. It should be shut off. Non-work or business-related data services on cell phones. Playing Words with Friends on your cell phone is not necessary. I know it's difficult. Netflix, even though it's you can get it for as low as $8 a month. It doesn't matter. That $8 can go to paying off your debt. Hulu, the Vudu stuff, Amazon Video on Demand, whatever that is. Money for going to the movies or other entertainment purposes should immediately be eliminated. Even internet services can be cut because you can, again, I know it's not fun, but you can use computers. At work, you can use them at local library because whenever we were in bankruptcy, we had to shut off our internet service. I mean, that's just what happened. We had to shut off our cable TV. It wasn't fun. I'll give you that. It was horrible. I hated it. But you know what? We managed to pay off the debt that we had in our Chapter 13 bankruptcy we had. But what I'm trying to do is convince you to do this before you have to file the bankruptcy, because if you can do this without filing bankruptcy, you're going to be in a much better position than me and my family were. Because we actually had to. But other unnecessary expenses can be cut as well. Have serious conversations with your spouse or partner about, and kids as well, about school field trips, because as fun as they are, if they're not necessary for specific projects, you shouldn't have the kids go to it. Piano and singing lessons, again, unless they're going to be an opera star when they grow up, if they have to go a year or two without those lessons, it's not going to destroy them. Sports, I know, and especially here in Texas where I live, this is a huge thing. I say cut out your sports, and parents just go ballistic. What do you mean my kid can't play Pee Wee football? Well, it costs money to do that. It costs money for the equipment you have to buy and all the different things and the fees, depending on where you live, whether you have to pay for your kids to be a part of it. If it's part of school, even those uniforms and things you have to pay, it's not necessary to live, because at some point you have to cut stuff like this. Karate lessons and other luxuries not required for survival. Remember, in a red alert situation, a financial red alert, it's all about surviving whatever is attacking you or whatever situation is there. Like in the order for geeks, comic book conventions, I'm sorry, they're not necessities. New cosplay outfits, not necessities. New comic books, new DVDs, they are not necessities. Pedicures and manicures, not necessities. Spending hundreds of dollars on trips to the salon or spa, not a necessity. A family vacation is not a necessity. Highlights and perms, things like that. Gym memberships even, not necessities. However, there is one caveat to this. Make sure you check into cancellation fees before making any changes to the things you spend, because I know that sometimes TV, satellite service, even cell phone service, stuff like that, they have those cancellation fees. And if you end up having to pay hundreds of dollars to cancel it before the end of the agreement, well, it's better to just wait it out and cancel once the actual agreement is up. Because remember, you can always go back to using that service later once the financial red alert is over with. Now, this also includes cell phones. And I know people are like, oh my God, I can't get rid of my iPhone, or I can't get rid of my Android. I'll tell you what, you can do that. My wife and I ended up using prepaid cell phones for the entire 5 years that we were in our bankruptcy. Now, that was a forced situation, but in this case, you have the choice to do it. You know what? Drop down to the lowest level service that you can, if that's more preferable to you. But just make sure that you're spending as little as possible on that, because cell phones are not necessary. And if you really truly need a cell phone for work, then get your work, negotiate that, get your work to pay for it. Negotiate, seriously. It is possible to negotiate, especially if they require you to be on call all the time. Have them pay whatever $20 it is. Ask for that as a bonus or a raise or something. Say, you know what, you guys can pay for this, seriously. So think about that as well. Now, again, just be sure that if you cancel something that you're not going to end up owing thousands or hundreds of dollars because of that. But, I mean, it was difficult using the prepaid service. Absolutely it was. But we managed to do it, and it didn't kill us. Now, another thing. When it happens to your Starship, your Financial Starship, when a financial red alert is called, the food replicator use is limited. Now that means, you probably know exactly what I'm going to say. Stop eating out. For the love of God, stop eating out if you're in a massive amount of debt. That's simple. Just stop eating out. Stop it. You can also eliminate school lunches. Why pay $3 for a school lunch for your kids when you can make a great lunch at home for like under $1? Seriously, it's stupid to pay that much. I don't care if all the people do it, all the cool kids do it. It doesn't matter. All the cool kids' parents, they're in debt too. So why don't you be different and make it, why don't you have your kids start a new trend where they're bringing the food to school instead of paying the $3 for crappy food? And stop worrying about what other people are going to think about it. Keeping up appearances are irrelevant. Convincing yourself that it's okay to do this one thing, it's not going to work. Because really, no one really cares that much about you. Only you care about you, and you really should care about the financial red alert situation that you're currently in. It's unlikely anybody is going to notice the changes you make. And if they do, you know what? I'm sure if you took a really close look at them and their life and their spending, you're going to find those people are living a financial lie too. So don't worry about what other people think. And don't worry about what other people do. Only worry about your situation, because it doesn't matter what other people think. Now, I know better than most people how difficult all of these kinds of changes are when you're used to living at a certain level. But seriously, when that lifestyle is not sustainable, and if you've looked at your finances and your debt is not going down every month, or it's staying the same, or it's going up every month, then you know you have a serious situation, a serious financial red alert you have to deal with. And it doesn't matter how much or what kind of lifestyle you prefer to live. What matters is what's happening in your life right now. That's what matters. It doesn't matter what you'd like to happen. What matters is what's happening right now. So when you reach this point, you basically have two choices. You can either make the extremely difficult but necessary changes to improve your financial situation now, before you're sucked into the center of the supermassive debt black hole. And I'm telling you from my experience, this is not a place you want to be. That is not an experience that you want to have to endure. I'm telling you, because you come out the other end a changed person, and a lot of times it is not change in a good way. All right, so think about that. You want to make those changes now before you're sucked into that. Now, you have those two opportunities, those two choices to make. You can do that before you're sucked into the center of the supermassive debt black hole, or you can do the dance that I like to call the debt shuffle, and you see people do this all the time, where they're constantly stressed out, just trying to maintain their current lifestyle. But I'm telling you, if you choose to ignore the financial red alert situation, you're most likely going to find yourself depressed. You're going to make yourself sick from the stress. Your home is going to end up being in foreclosure. You're barely going to be able to sleep at night because you're lying there in bed worried about the repo man being outside coming to take your cars. You'll end up losing everything that you hold dear, your home, your cars, and your stuff, including what little self-esteem and confidence that you actually had left. And once all that happens, you're going to find yourself sitting across from a bankruptcy attorney asking him to borrow $5 just to pay for parking in the parking lot downstairs. And that is a true and honest story. That's something I haven't really shared a whole lot, but that there's nothing quite like having to sit across from your bankruptcy attorney. In downtown Dallas here is where we ended up having to drive, where we spent what little bit of money we had left to be able to drive down there just to be able to sign the papers. And going down to downtown Dallas, where I'm not used to living in a metro area, I didn't even think about having to pay for parking, and realizing I didn't have enough money to park the car in the parking lot, and me having to ask my bankruptcy attorney for $5 to park in the parking lot. That was probably the lowest point I have ever been in my entire life. That is not something that I want anyone else to ever have to go through, and that's why I'm so passionate about talking about the financial red alert systems, because that is, when you are to that point where you have to ask somebody for just $5, it takes a chunk of your soul when you realize that that's the position you've put yourself and your family in. Now, am I sharing this information? Am I sharing this story to scare you? Maybe a little bit. But really, I consider it more of a reality check, a financial wake-up call. Because the thing to remember with a financial red alert is that it's temporary. Depending on your income, on your expenses, and your debt, it might take a few years. It could take 1 or 2 years. It could take just a few months or maybe just 1 year to get out of the financial red alert zone. But when you finally get to cancel that financial red alert, it will be one of the greatest feelings that you'll ever have. You will have accomplished something that most people never get to accomplish because they're not serious about it. But if you're watching this, then I know that you're to that point. You're serious about wanting to make changes in your financial life. So if you're tired of the financial red alerts constantly going off, then it's time to make some changes. So that right there, my friends, is what happens to your financial starship during what I call the financial red alert. Now, next week, I'm going to continue the financial alert system series. And finally, yes, I promise, I will talk about the financial yellow alert and what it means to be in a financial yellow alert. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions about any of the stuff that I talked about today, if you'd like to email me about your current situation and talk back and forth about that, I am happy to do so because, I'm one of those people. I've gone through this situation I've been sucked into the middle of the supermassive debt black hole and ended up going through bankruptcy. So if I can help even just one person not have to go through that experience, I am willing to spend my time to do so. So again, you can email me, dave@debtblackhole.com. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm there at DebtBlackHole. See you next week.